Mr. Wilson obtained a written account. He did a written account of his interview with Ms. Mangum.
His statement of what she said?
Yes. In other words, his memorialization of her oral statements to him.
What about a transcript or a recording of what she said?
He did not do, he also produced his notes. He did not produce or record it.
Why not?
Well, I didn't ask him specifically to do that, and I guess he assumed not to, because I didn't ask him to. Although, as you'll see, that might, I don't know the reason. I can't tell you the reason that he didn't do that. I did not ask him specifically.
You did not, did you give him any direction as to how to memorialize that interview in any way? In other words, did you tell him, well, take good notes or whatever? I mean, what did you say to him about that?
I told him to memorialize the conversation the way he would with any other witness, to take notes of what she said and to produce for me a written report of what she told him.
Was that at the DA's office? Was it at your office?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure where he interviewed her, but I don't believe it was in our office. I think because of her physical condition, he had to go to where she was at that time.
Let me ask you this. I understand Mr. Wilson is an investigator for your office. Does he go out and take other witness interviews from time to time as part of his ordinary duties?
When you say witness interviews...
witness interviews, victim interviews.
He has done that on occasions in the past.
What is his general modus operandi as to whether those interviews are recorded?
Let me just, I can answer the question in this way. We're not using him in that fashion anymore.
When did you stop?
I don't recall the exact date, but there...
Was it in 2007?
It was either 2007 or late in 2006.
Very late 2006. Correct?
It might have actually been in 2007, but...
Did he do any after Ms. Mangum's interview?
Not for me. I'm not sure. There was another question that came up involving an interview and that was done for someone else, and I'm not certain when that was.
Prior to this interview, had he done other interviews specifically for you in your case?
No, sir. Mr. Wilson was at one time a police investigator. He had also served for a number of years as a private investigator and worked primarily, I guess, in domestic cases. Actually worked with many of the lawyers that were involved in some fashion or another in this particular case. But he had retired from private investigation, and I had hired him as an investigator in my office towards the end of 2005.
Did he have a PI license?
He did at one time. I don't know if he still has one. I don't know how that works, so I can't really answer your question.
Are you aware of any witness or victim interviews that he did that he recorded at any time?
I'm not sure what you mean. You mean tape recorded?
Tape recording, digital recording?
Not specifically. I can't tell you that he never did that. I don't recall.
Any AV equipment whatsoever, other than taking notes? Are you aware that he did that on any occasion?
I'm not specifically aware, but he did very few interviews for us, actually. That wasn't his primary function.
Okay, well, why'd you ask him to do it? If that wasn't his primary function, you must have realized this was a pretty critical interview. Because the intent, I take it, was to find out what she was saying before she has to go testify at this suppression hearing, correct?
Well, actually, it was the first step in doing that. I was going to have to interview her myself prior to the suppression hearing to speak with her, and I would have done that with somebody else. but I wanted a kind of a starting point for that interview.
Why wouldn't you do it yourself to start with, since you were the one that would have to present that evidence in court?
I chose not to do that at this time, or at that time, and that was probably a mistake. It was probably a mistake not to have interviewed her earlier than I did in the first place.
Had you I know you personally had met with her prior to that, but I take it you had not, up to Investigator Wilson's interview, spoken to her substantively about the events at the lacrosse house.
That is correct. Yes, sir, that's
true, isn't it? Now, the police investigators had, correct?
They had early on in the investigation, yes, sir.
Why couldn't you rely on that as sort of your baseline as what she was going to testify to?
I could have done that. I chose not to do that. And I certainly, very probably made a mistake in doing that.
Was an attempt made to ascertain from her, either by Mr. Wilson or at any other time, what she may have learned about what the defendants may have been saying about what happened that night?
I don't know that I specifically understand your question.
Did anybody ask her, well, have you read or heard anything about what the defendants are saying happened?
I don't know that anybody asked her that question, but there actually was another part to this whole situation that might be, this all arose out of a question about what photographs were shown, because I think that my attorney was going to ask me something that you may or may not be aware of, but might inform some of your further questions.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry to take over questioning. Go ahead, Mr.